you'll see that it's most fundamental. The purpose of this report is to show how we're going to recover the PT. 3 main objectives: win back customers who have not returned, acquire new customers who don't yet use public transport, and make it easier for people to use public transport. So I'll hand over to Dean and Stacey to introduce the team and to run through the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. And look, I'm joined here with Richard Harrison, and some of you will know Richard. Richard is the one that sends the emails out weekly. He's a manager, Metro Optimisation. I had David Stevenson to my right, and David is our PT Growth Tribe lead. I'm going to frame it up, and then I'm going to go straight to questions, because I know there will be questions. And so this program sort of goes back, and the Mayor announced the establishment of a PT turnaround plan back in the 23rd of May. At that time, there was also an enlistment of a consultancy to support the Mayor's office to help facilitate this work between ourselves to make sure that we worked collaboratively together. So in terms of that, we have been working with Pollock Consulting, and what you have before you today is the draft plan. So there are 3 outcomes we're looking for. They're win back customers, acquire new customers who don't yet use public transport, make it easier for people to use public transport more often in their daily lives, and do this by boosting and valuing the workforce, providing faster, more reliable travel, help our customers navigate disruptions and build network resilience, modernising our fares and supporting the customer journey, marketing great public transport journeys, and we'll also be putting a sort of monitoring framework around this. Now, it's important to note that this is a 2-year program, and so it's a 2-year program of what I'll call more tactical operational measures. None of these things that you see within this plan rely on huge infrastructure investment or in order to be able to generate more passengers on our system. Last Monday, we facilitated 2 drop-in sessions where we gave the opportunity for councillors to talk to us about the plan and ask any questions in terms of refinements. Our steps from here are to take it to our board at the end of this month for approval. Currently, the document itself is with our design team, so we will be making this into a published document that we can share with our communities and that we can share together. And we will be reporting back on it periodically. Now, one thing you will note is that there are a number of things that are currently unfunded, but having this plan allows us to be able to make informed decisions in terms of prioritisation about where we put things. And so going into the next financial year, we will be going through that process with our board. But it is succinct. These are things that we can do, and things that we want to be able to do as well, and make it visible for everybody to get on board with us to do so. So I will hand over to questions, Chair. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Stacey. And you'll see, councillors, that in attachment A, there's a lot more detail as to the public transport growth program. There's a whole series of descriptors of what's being considered here and in what order, and of course, as Stacey said, people were given the chance to go online and talk with Stacey about this proposal. So open up for questions. Well, looks remarkably like okay, no, that was spoke too soon. Okay, Honey, member Renata.
Thanks for the brief outline. This morning we had a presentation from a wahine who actually did a marketing delivery of how good the bus transport and whatnot was. Yet the incoming government is coming in, and what half fares and that were going to be considered gone. What's within this plan you've got that's going to either deal with that, especially getting those young people to the education deliveries? That's one question, and I've got one other. So.
Thank you, Member. In terms of that, we do still have a standard concession system, so that does allow a substantial, obviously, discount from the adult fare for youth travellers. We also still have our free weekends for under 16s. That's still in play. So we have a number of tools, but you will see that we do, one of the focus areas are modernising our fares, and we do want to take the time to have a proper look at it so it's easy for customers to engage with in terms of, fare caps and the likes, with the concessions potentially coming off that are currently in place. We will need to look at things a bit differently in terms of how we categorise that. That does require quite a lot of modelling. But making sure that we have different, what I call packages available that are easy for people to understand is going to be the priority. There still will remain a substantial discount for youth travellers, as well as tertiary concessions, etc., in order to make it affordable for people.
Thanks for that. The other question is, what engagement have you done with the Māori communities out there? Because what was actually indicated by her was the ability to inform these little people, let alone their whānau, about the use and how to use the bus, especially going forward. So what's the engagement that has been taken with the Māori community?
Thank you for your question, Member. Look, we do want to segment in terms of how we engage more broadly with business, with schools, as well as communities. We do want to take an equity of access lens to things as well. So it's really important, like we have with our road safety data, that we actually look at how communities are using public transport and fully understand that. So how many services flow through a particular area, and as a percentage of population, how many people are actually engaging with those services, because that gives us a good understanding of whether they're fit for purpose. But I still think we got quite a measure of work to do in order to be able to understand fully how community groups, how different locations and want to engage with public transport. So it is very much a work in progress and something that we do want to focus more on.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. This looks really exciting. Just a couple of questions. I'm scanning through it, and some of the initiatives are obviously unfunded. Will AC be advocating for these as part of the LTP for funding?
Yes.
Ripper. So can you take this committee through what measures will be taken to target communities that are further away from the city centre, so suburban Aucklanders? How are we specifically going to get them to choose PT?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you, Councillor. I think there's a number of things. So our fare strategy is one of them. So in terms of that, there has been conversations over the affordability factor. So the further you get out from the CBD, it costs you more. So making sure that, we look at those zoning and are we making PT as an attractive measure on the outer in order to travel further. That's one thing in terms of that. But again, things like travel time are really important to people. Reliability, travel time, affordability. They're the three sort of key things here. So reliability, obviously, we've made substantial gains in terms of our bus network. We still have a number of issues on our ferry network, and we still have, obviously, our rail renewal program in terms of that as we lead up to CRL, which are going to impact that. And another one?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there are a number of what I would call, you'll see within the program, that address those different issues independently, but obviously they work together in terms of a system. The other one, and I will say, and we've talked about bus priority, we are doing a broader, what I call bus priority plan, to see where those areas of opportunities are, because that goes to reliability, it also goes to timeliness in terms of that. And so, if you're on a bus and it's a bus to nowhere, you still feel like you're disadvantaged in terms of that. It's always going to take you longer on a bus if you don't have bus priority, because it has to stop and pick up people, it has to stop and drop off people. So in terms of that bus priority or priority lines or how we do it, but in terms of that, making sure that there is parity in travel times.
That's really fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Just one question from me to finish it off, and it goes to the work program that appears in the attachment in this complete targeted community and local board engagement. It names a number of areas there that have already been done, I think, and they go back a number of years when they were done. And in the case of Orewa and Millwater, very successfully. The one that does cause me a little bit of concern is also in the priority one, targeted promotion of reliability improvements to disrupted customers, and it names a couple of areas that we've got in mind there, Eastern Line, ferry commuters and Western Line. I'm just really curious to know, given that in some instances there, the unreliability's been going for 2 years, with improvements, it'll be another 18 months, so that will be 3.5 years of unreliability, of substandard experiences by the commuters. What can be done in the interim to follow through on the worthy goals of this program of winning back customers, trying to attract new people? What can be done when we've got specific communities that exist, so they're very easily identifiable? In some cases, they have a Facebook group that has 1,600, a big number of members. Seems to me we could be doing stuff now. Otherwise, I think anyone would agree that 3.5 years, you're going to lose virtually that whole cohort of people, aren't you? If it's been bad cancellations to date, the prospect of another 18 months, 3.5 years after the fact, it's probably coming on a little late in the piece. So for those targeted groups you've identified there, what do you think could be getting done now? That could be trying to restore confidence, trying to communicate with the people, and trying to win some of them back.
Thank you, Chair. So, I mean, in terms of obviously providing alternate services is the big one, and also communicating about what's happening around them. And so I know we talked a couple of times about the local board transport plans and that level of engagement. But yes, some of our customers have been disrupted for a considerably long time, and we actually need to do better in terms of how we work with them to provide meaningful services, or alternate services as an example. Like when the Western Line is a good example, I can see from the data that a lot of our Western Line train customers have now switched to buses, and those buses are 150% of what they were, pre-COVID as an example. So there is a lot to do in terms of engagement, and obviously I fully appreciate that some of our ferry services that have been disrupted considerably, we need to work closer with the community in providing meaningful solutions.
So I'm happy to move this, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. Does anyone want to speak to it? Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Hills?
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly, this is great to see. I know much of the detail you've got in here you already do in a sort of sometimes patchy way, so it's great to see a kind of strategic approach to the network. I think some of this, and I know Councillor Watson has spoken about this too, some of those more softer investments, rather than always thinking of the new route or the new capital improvement, it's those communication, it's the working with business associations, it's the working with local communities to understand routes that I think that we can jump on board a little bit more, especially when funding is low. I think of the empty bus conversation, and I know things like the 928, which is a North Shore hospital service, is one of our lowest on the shore, but it's extremely important. But I think often people don't realise that, and I've explained to people, to get there is to get to the bottom of Orewa Road and walk like 20 metres. A lot of people don't understand that still, so if you're able to kind of promote some of those connections in a real easy way. Yes, it's easy on the hop, but not everyone knows, on the app, but not everyone knows those connections. So how do we start promoting some of the services in a connected way, $2.20 to the hospital or whatever, I don't know, but there's got to be some more innovative point-to-point approaches. Sometimes we put on new services or increase frequency, but never tell anyone we did that. And sometimes it would just help to do those things. So I think this is really good. I do feel, that we are being less ambitious than we could, probably because of funding. But if we think of 2010 we had 57 million trips a year, and then we managed 10 years later to have 104 million trips a year. We know we can, get there. We can do it because you all and your teams have succeeded in doing that fairly recently. So I know there's a lot of space to move without just infrastructure investment or just OPEX investment in the really expensive things. So there's a lot to build on, but I'm really, really pleased to see this kind of real focus on the growth of the program, because that will reduce our climate emissions, it will reduce DSI because more people are getting around in a different way, and it will improve the connectivity of our city. So I just want to applaud you for doing your best with what you've got right now under these conditions. So thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Okay, carried. Thank you for that. Come through to our last item of the day.